Intellectual property, or IP for short, exists in virtually every business. But unlike physical things the business owns, like materials or computers, IP is often intangible. But a recent survey by the Office of National Statistics showed that investment in intangible assets was £8.5 million higher than investment in tangible assets over the same period. A previous study by the Intellectual Property Office also showed that 70% of a business assets are intangible. But the value of intangible assets comes only if it's protected. And a lot of the time, intangible assets are invisible to business owners and managers. So in this video, we're going to run through how it applies to them, and some common myths, and why you need to think about it from the outset, because it could be a key part of your business's future success. Welcome back to the Basics of Business channel, everybody. And as Neil and I have talked about before, thinking about IP and thinking about how you're going to protect the IP in your business is one of the key early steps you need to take after getting started. And Neil, we talk about and legal stuff already into jargon like intellectual property and tangible assets, which tends to make people very sort of hesitant and confused thinking about legal stuff. But given your 30 years of experience in business, in terms of, firstly, why is IP important to businesses?
Well, it's the first thing is that it's the sort of the extra value that's in the business. So the one thing's about making sure that they are things that are, as you say, they're not things you can necessarily see and touch. Sometimes they are. It can be your trademark, or it can be things like that. But the other bit is just your know-how or the awareness of your brand adds value to your business, and so you need to protect that. And especially people who are looking to build, the unicorn and have their big exit, then it is really key that, not only are you protecting the ongoing business in terms of not letting people come in and copy you or steal the knowledge and experience that you've built up over the years. It also, when you come, if you're one of these people who's looking for an exit, the people buying are going to want to know that actually all this stuff that makes your business unique and amazing and profitable, we want to make sure that it's protected for us, and that when we come on, no one else can come on and just steal it from us.
And it's also legal stuff is usually viewed very negatively. It's like minimizing risk. We talked about of registering your IP lets you protect your work or whatever, so no one's going to steal it and copy it. But that is one of the sort of almost few positive things from a legal point of view is adding value if you're protecting it. And investors love that from that perspective in terms of.
And I think that you say about legal jargon is actually there's accounting jargon and Companies Act jargon and other stuff in there, because to some extent having your intellectual property protected is not that dissimilar to, let's say, the premises. If you own a freehold property, your lawyers will be registering title deeds. They'll be registering your interest with the land registry and things. If you have a lease, you have to have the lease properly drawn up. It has to be registered with the land registry again, because otherwise your entitlement to use those premises is at risk, because you haven't got the legal ownership, the legal right to do certain things with that.
And in terms of Neil and I are not lawyers from that perspective. This is just obviously for general information. But as I say, given our experience in the business, you've got to just start trying to understand this. And it's not, things like that are, once you get into it, it's not as complicated as you think. And as you say, once you start understanding the jargon and things like that, so sort of moving on to the sort of the types of IP that there are, which we're trying to, as I say, use this information to accelerate you through these phases, so you sort of don't back off it and don't make a conscious decision. You've got, first of all, you've got patents, which are thinking more in terms of like inventions and things like that. You've got registered designs. It could be around your sort of shape or appearance of your product and things like that. And then moving on to things probably that are people are more familiar with, like copyright, we sort of like original works like books and music, but also like software code and things like that, and databases are copyright. But then probably the one people are most sort of know most about, because it's one of the first things they come across related to trademarks, because brand is one of the first things that people will think about. So if we go into trademarks, as I say, that's the first bit anyone setting up a business is most likely to be first familiar with. What can and can't be trademarked, as I say, we talked about the name can, the logo can, like even things like smells or things like that, things that's unique. That's the key bit, isn't it? It's something unique around your brand. That's something you can consider for a trademark.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key thing. It has to be unique, and it has to not be some sort of general word that can be applied elsewhere. It has to have something unique and different about it.
So like generic things like open 24/7, you can't trademark 24/7. Or if you're, I don't know, your camping gear and you've got a warm thermos, that you can't trade, because that's something that other people in that sector need to be able to use, because it's more generic from that point of view. Offensive words, so obviously you can't do things like that. If it's already trademarked, obviously something, but related to that already trademark, there's the class element, isn't it? If it's in a different sector or different applied, you potentially can use it, just if it's just in a different sector or area from that perspective.
Yeah, so if someone's already using a phrase or a brand, a trademark, but it's, when you register it, you're registering it in a particular industry or a particular way it's going to be used. So yes, you can then still apply and say, well, I'm not going to use it like that. It's so different how I'm, the people that I'm marketing to or whatever, or dealing with, my customer base is so different. There won't be confusion and whatever.
And a good example is if you think of like Polo, for example. Like Polo is a car. From that perspective, it's also a suite. You've got Polo shirts. You could trademark, like Polo as a car, can't just trademark the word Polo for all these other things. And the fact that there are suites called Polo, the fact that there are Polo shirts and things like that, shows that just because it exists, etc., that doesn't stop you if your sector is in something totally different. And if there's more jargon, it's called classes, isn't it, in terms of if you want to register it in a different class and stuff like that. But that unique element is what you're really looking for. And in terms of what you need to do to trademark from that perspective, just go on to just through the IPO.
Yeah, so through the Intellectual Property Office. But obviously that's what the lawyers would do if you instruct them, but you are able to do it yourself. Yeah. But when you start looking at it and you have all the different classes and things like that, it can become a bit confusing. But there's nothing, you don't have to be a qualified lawyer to be allowed to do it.
And you can all you need is details of what you want to trademark, who's intended to be owning it, etc. And after this video, Neil and I are going to go through the process, step-by-step tutorial of registering a trademark, to show you what's involved practically, and show how much, which you can do it yourself. It's definitely an option. We'll show you how easy it is to do that. And once registered a trademark, you need to renew it every 10 years. So in theory, it can last forever and have value for the business forever. But there's a few myths that probably you need to be aware of, particularly around if you're forming a limited company and you've got this idea of a name, etc., and you go, oh great, it's available. That doesn't mean you've got a trademark.
No, I mean, there are, as one of our other videos shows, there's rules around what you're allowed to call your company and things like that. But if you manage to set up a company called, Polo Limited, that doesn't mean that somehow no one else can use the word Polo. What that means is they can't form a company called Polo Limited, but they could form a company called Polo 2023 Limited or Polo United Limited. And then you're getting into sort of the intellectual property side of, well, actually, they're just trying to cash in on my name. My company, Polo Limited, is, everyone knows it and whatever. So, for example, if I went out and set up a company called Apple Communications Limited, fairly certain Apple would be contacting me saying, you're trying to cash in on our good name, you need to change the name of your company or we're going to sue you. And if they have got the name Apple trademark protected and all that sort of stuff, then I'm pretty certain they would win if they did try to do anything.
But the key thing there is the company's house database of names is different to the intellectual property database. So don't, as I say, if you've got an idea for a name, don't get excited if you find it's available on company's house. You need to do that search on the intellectual property office's database as well. Another myth around, if you do register something and you register it in the UK, then that's great, you've got it elsewhere. It doesn't work like that either. Trademarks are territorial.
Exactly. And I don't know the exact geographical areas, but you'll have the UK, you'll have France, you'll have Europe, you'll have the Americas, you'll have Asia, you'll have worldwide or whatever. But you are, like we were saying with the classes, it can be a very narrow thing. I've got that protected in this geographical location, in this industry or sector, which would then allow someone else to use that same name or words or phrase in a different context or in a different geographic location. Yeah, for sure.
And that comes back to the of why you need to start thinking about it early, isn't it? In terms of if you, for example, if you decide I want to sell my goods and services in the UK, in Europe, in America, then thinking about, okay, trademarks in the UK can take like 3 to 5 months, in Europe a bit longer, in the States I think they can even take 12 to 18 months. That's a long period in terms of before you've got that register protection, if that's what you want. So therefore that you can't put it off in terms of thinking about it. You might decide we're not going to do it now, we don't have the money, etc. But you've got to make that conscious decision of thinking about it early on.
Yeah, and definitely. And as well, if you need funding for your business and you are going to be looking to raise money, again, investors are going to want to, have some comfort that if that's an important part of your business, and if that's going to be an important part of the value of your business, and on day one, it isn't. I've got this idea, I've got a brand, I've got a trademark, I've got an image that I want to use, and this is what I'm going to do to promote my business. It's not that important today, but in a year, 2 years time, and your services or your product is synonymous with that branding, name, trademark that you have, at that point, you will want to have it registered. And if someone's saying, well, that's key part of the business, that you're going to have that awareness in the marketplace, well, I don't want to invest unless I know that is going to be protected.
So if registering a trademark is something that you want to think about and consider at an early stage of your business, Neil and I are going to do it by ourselves without a lawyer. So head over to another one of our videos where we do that to let you see what's involved. It is possible to do by yourself and it's very feasible. So go and check that out. That's it for this video of an overview of IP as it relates to your business. As ever, I wish you every success to your business journey. And you know what to do with those boxes on the screen. And we'll see you over in another video shortly.